It is Storytime with Uncle Scotty, and I am Uncle Scotty, your host for Storytime with Uncle Scotty. Hello, we have our own mugs, very full of water today. Hope you and your own mug, whether it looks like this or some other kind of mug, are having the most wonderful day, night, morning, evening, afternoon, dusk, dawn, late night, midday, lunchtime, dinner time, breakfast, whenever you're joining. We have been reading Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl. Our second book by Roald Dahl. And now, so, Mr. Fox, Badger, one of his small fox kids, have gone in to Bean's cider cellar with all this apple cider. They think it's apple cider that everybody can drink. It's apple cider for adults only. The animals started drinking it by mistake. And then all of a sudden, this woman is coming down the steps, and the animals have frozen. Let's see what happens next. Chapter 16. The Woman. "Quick," said Mr. Fox. "Hide!" He and Badger and the smallest fox jumped up onto a shelf and crouched behind a row of big cider jars. Peering around the jars, they saw a huge woman coming down into the cellar. At the foot of the steps, the woman paused, looking right and left. Then she turned and headed straight for the place where Mr. Fox and Badger and the smallest fox were hiding. She stopped right in front of them. The only thing between her and them was a row of cider jars. She was so close, Mr. Fox could hear the sound of her breathing. Peeping through the crack between the bottles, he noticed that she carried a big rolling pin in one hand. "How many will he want this time, Mrs. Bean?" the woman shouted. And from the top of the steps, the other voice called back, "Bring up 2 or 3 jars." "He drank 4 yesterday, Mrs. Bean." "Yes, but he won't want that many today because he's not going to be up there for a few more hours longer. He says the fox is bound to make a run for it this morning. It can't possibly stay down that hole another day without food." The woman in the cellar reached out and lifted a jar of cider from the shelf. The jar she took was next to the one behind which Mr. Fox was crouching. "I'll be glad when the rotten brute is killed and strung up on the front porch," she cried. And by the way, Mrs. Bean, your husband promised I could have the tail as a souvenir." "The tail's been all shot to pieces," said the voice from upstairs. "You didn't know that?" "You mean it's ruined?" "Of course it's ruined. They shot the tail but missed the fox." "Oh, heck," said the big woman. "I did so want that tail." "You can have the head instead, Mabel. You can get it stuffed and hang it on your bedroom wall. Hurry up now with that cider." "Yes, ma'am, I'm coming," said the big woman, and she took a second jar from the shelf. "If she takes one more, she'll see us," said Mr. Fox, thought Mr. Fox to himself. He could feel the smallest fox's body pressed tightly against his own, quivering with excitement. "Will 2 be enough, Mrs. Bean? Or shall I take 3? "My goodness, Mabel, I don't care so long as you get a move on." "Then 2 it is," said the huge woman, speaking to herself now. "He drinks too much anyway." Carrying a jar in each hand and with the rolling pin tucked under one arm, she walked away across the cellar. At the foot of the steps, she paused and looked around, sniffing the air. "There's rats down here again, Mrs. Bean. I can smell them." "Then poison them, woman, poison them. You know where the poison's kept." "Yes, ma'am," Mabel said. She climbed slowly out of sight of the steps. She climbed slowly out of sight up the steps. The door slammed. "Quick," said Mr. Fox. "Grab a jar each and run for it." Rat stood on the high shelf and shrieked. "What did I tell you? You nearly got nabbed, didn't you? You nearly gave the game away. You keep out of here from now on. I don't want you around. This is my place." "You," said Mr. Fox, "are going to be poisoned." "Poppycock," said the rat. I sit up here and watch her putting the stuff down. She'll never get me. Mr. Fox and Badger and the smallest fox ran across the cellar, clutching a gallon jar each. Goodbye, Rat, they called out as they disappeared through the hole in the wall. Thanks for the lovely cider. Thieves, shrieked Rat. Robbers, bandits, burglars. Shall we do one more? You know what? The next one is kind of a long one. Let's save it for tomorrow, because I think it might be a good one. But thank you for joining us for today. Storytime with Uncle Scotty. I have been your host, Uncle Scotty. Thank you everyone so much for continuing to check us out on Patreon and support us on Patreon. It really means the world. I love sending out mugs and bookmarkuses and finding time to read special stories to you. And also just feeling like we're all building a little thing together. It's very nice and I appreciate it. So I will see you tomorrow. Until then, bye.